So here's a question. What if everything you need to know about getting in shape actually came down to like 25 things? Not 100, not some secret system, 25. That's it. Because here's the thing, right? If you're new to this, or even if you've been at it for a while and just aren't seeing the progress you want, I think the problem usually isn't that you don't know enough. It's that there's so much fucking noise everywhere now and not enough of what actually matters. Hi, I'm Lewis. I've been training in the gym for a little over 10 years now, and I've helped real people in the real world get real results in my work as a qualified personal trainer. And what I'm about to walk you through is basically the distilled version of everything that's actually worked for me and for the people I've coached, not just theory. So, a quick one just before we get into it. This channel's whole existence is to be kind of an antidote to how extreme and honestly quite misguided a lot of the fitness culture has become recently. Here, it's just simple, clear, actionable stuff with the very relaxing backdrop of me mostly getting my ass handed to me on Helldivers 2. If that sounds like your kind of thing, stick around, consider subscribing, or leave a like. It's genuinely very appreciated, and I read every comment. Right, let's get into it. Alright, so point number one, if you're not losing weight, you're not in a calorie deficit. It's that simple. It simply comes down to a maths equation and an energy balance. If you're taking in less than your body needs, you'll lose weight. If you're not, you'll gain or you'll stay the same. It's that simple. There's no magic to it. Just know that if you're not losing weight, you're not in a calorie deficit. Point number two, when prioritizing what you're aiming for, you need to first look at calories, then look at macros, then look at further refinements beyond that. So this is the order of importance. Get the calories right first, then worry about the macro split, then worry about things like meal timing if you want, or food quality. I would say on the food quality front, you do want to eat as many foods that you kind of know are good for you. Don't fill your calories and macros with just crap foods. But in terms of hierarchy, calories, then macros, then further refinements. Chasing the small stuff before the big stuff, it only wastes time and you'll get frustrated. Number three, resistance training is number one priority, both for aesthetics and for general health. Like nothing else on this list does more for how you look and how you function longer term than resistance training. It is number one. Don't overlook it, all right? And I'm not saying to ignore cardio or to ignore doing anything else, but just make sure that resistance training is a large part of what you do. Number four, consistency trumps everything, all right? So there are optimal ways to do things, and how you're doing it isn't necessarily optimal, but if chasing optimal costs you consistency, then it's just not worth it. So if what you're doing is working and you're able to stick to it, this is worth a lot more than something that would work better, but you're just not going to be able to stick to longer term. When planning your meals, prioritize protein, then consider the rest, all right? So start every meal decision from what is my protein source, and then build the rest of the plate around that, rather than trying to treat protein as an afterthought, all right? So protein should be a large amount. If you were to split the plate up into different sections, protein should be at least 40 to 50% of your plate, and the other sections are coming from the fats and the carbs. But when you're planning a meal, think first protein, then let the rest fall into place after that. Number six, identify what your limiting factor is and attack that first. All right, so figure out what's actually holding you back and put your energy there instead of spreading it across everything else. So for example, for some people, it might be that they're not able to get enough sleep at night. And so actually addressing that's going to go a lot further than making a little refinement on their diet. Or for other people, it could be that they don't, or they feel like they don't have enough time to be getting to the gym. Okay, well maybe we can address that. Can we have shorter workouts? Can we integrate it better into your day? You need to come up with whatever the limiting factor is for you, attack that first, and then go from there. Alright, so number seven is just to view things in a hierarchy. In fitness, you can kind of visualize a pyramid, and at the top of the pyramid are all the little refinements that you might make, and at the bottom, at the base, there's all the parts that actually move the needle, and they do most of the work for getting you to where you want to go. All right, and so like before when we mentioned about the calories, that's like the number one. So you're going to sort that, then you're going to sort the macros and sort the refinements. For example, supplements they're near the top of the pyramid. They're just not anywhere near as important as the foods you eat, the amount you eat, your sleep, your rest, your recovery, what you're doing in the gym. So I want you to view everything in a hierarchical fashion. Number eight, focus on the basics and the compound lifts. So I want you to find the movements that work for your body, be consistent with them, and progressively overload those over time. That's the whole game, right? Don't chase the latest exercise trend. Just find what works for you and keep doing it. and get better at it over time. Maybe that's lifting more weights, maybe it's lifting the same weight for more reps, but make it harder over time and keep doing that. All right, number 9, don't neglect intensity. All right, so it sounds a little cliche, but the hard reps are where the actual growth signal comes from. Like, going through the motions doesn't cut it. And you see this all the time. People coming into the gym, they're just going through all the motions. They look like they're doing stuff, but they aren't actually pushing themselves hard enough to signal to the body that we need to grow and get better and get stronger. All right, so don't neglect intensity. You have to push hard. If you can, push harder than last time. Number 10, if you miss a day, just restart. Restart as soon as you can. Missing a workout or a day off your diet or whatever, it's just not the end of the world. The mistake comes when you wait for Monday or you wait for perfect conditions instead of just picking it up right now. And it's so easy to just let that one day off or 2 days off even turn into weeks and weeks off. And then you've lost so much progress that you just simply didn't have to do. And it's because you let that get in your head. Having that one day off didn't make any difference at all. Just start again as soon as you can. Number 11, I want you to look for an 80-20 split for good, healthy, what you would call locked-in foods and some fun foods, all right? So essentially 80% of your intake should be from foods that serve your goals. Maybe quite clean, whole foods, single ingredient foods, foods that you kind of know are good for you. But I want you to also leave room for the other 20%, which is simply just enjoyable. And this is what makes it sustainable for the longer term. Like, yeah, it would be ideal if all we ate was perfectly clean, healthy, single ingredient foods all the time. But it's not really the real world, and to be quite honest, fuck that. I'd quite like to actually eat things that are a little bit more enjoyable from time to time. Number 12, don't neglect cardio. Alright, so it's easy to treat resistance training as the only priority, but cardio still matters for health and work capacity. Alright, so having a good cardiovascular system, amongst the health benefits that are obvious from it, it also helps you with your resistance training, as you're able to push harder for longer without gassing out. And that's also something you want to avoid. So make sure to not neglect cardio, even if what you are mainly into is lifting. Number 13, bad sleep will raise your cravings and your desire for junk food the following day. All right, so if you're not sleeping well, don't be surprised when your willpower around food just takes a hit, quite simply. It's a very predictable pattern. It's not a failing, it's just if you've not had a very good sleep quality, or maybe you've not slept very long last night, just be aware that chances are you are going to experience a little bit more cravings on that day. All right, number 14, be careful when bulking. So a small surplus is all you actually need. It's easy to get lazy and let that calorie amount just creep up and up and up. And then you end up in a position where you're stuck spending months undoing all the extra fat gain that you literally did not need in the first place. And I've been there myself multiple times where you end up having to stay in a cutting phase for months and months to get it all off again, purely because you were too lazy and you decided, oh, do you know what? I'm bulking. That's my excuse. I can eat whatever I want. Like, don't do that. Just be very careful when bulking. You only need a small surplus to actually gain muscle. Number 15, aim for 8 to 10,000 steps a day. This is ideal. So what this is going to do is it's going to keep your energy expenditure nice and high without actually incurring any of the extra recovery time that would be required, say, from doing a harder bout of cardio. Like, you can't exactly go out and do sprints every day because you need to recover from it. And so aim for 8 to 10,000 steps, and also know that after 10,000, it's still great to do more, but it does have a point of diminishing returns. And so just be aware of that. Anywhere from 8 to 10 is ideal. Number 16, if you can, drink some water before meals. It's just a small habit that can help with appetite and digestion, and it makes it a little bit easier to feel full when you do eat the meal. Number 17, good hydration is actually about balancing salt and water, not just drinking more. All right, so water alone isn't the whole picture. You kind of need to aim for around 2 litres a day at minimum, but make sure to pair it with adequate salt intake as well. So as I say, hydration isn't just about water. You also need to consider salt. And so don't be afraid of salt in your diet, especially if you're having an adequate amount of water coming in. All right, number 18, go for a walk after your meals. All right, it doesn't need to be anything special. Just a short walk's absolutely fine. This is going to help with digestion and health, and it actually has quite a myriad of benefits. So make sure to do this. It doesn't have to be anything special. It can be literally a 10 to 15 minute walk after your meal is ideal. Number 19, prepping meals isn't required, but it does make things a lot easier. All right, so it's going to save time. It's going to remove the temptation to go off plan when you're tired or you're busy. It doesn't need to be exciting. You're not a Kardashian. You don't need a huge variety. Find a few staple meals that tick the boxes and then just rinse and repeat them, to be quite honest. And having your meals there prepared and ready to go, it just makes the barrier to entry so much lower, because you can just come in if you're tired or whatever after the gym, and you know that in 5 minutes your meal's ready. You don't need to stand and prepare and cook. Number 20, fat loss isn't linear. Often it's right when you think nothing's actually happening that the scale suddenly moves, and usually by quite a lot more than you expected. All right, so just be aware of that. If you are seeing a little period where maybe you're not seeing the progress you'd like, give it 3 weeks, see what happens. If there isn't any movement, okay, let's start reviewing stuff. If there is, great. You might find that it comes when you least expect it. All right, number 21, genetics plays an absolutely massive role. Like your ability to build muscle, to lose fat, your cardio capacity, your recovery. A lot of this is going to be heavily influenced by genetics, all right? So don't pass everything off as, oh, well, my genetics are bad, so I can't do this and this. You can go a lot further than you think in a lot of cases. What I would say is, when it comes to this, make sure that you compare yourself to who you were and where you are now. Don't compare yourself to others as best you can. Number 22, social media is highly misleading. So a lot of the physiques that you see online are the result of good angles, filters, favourable context, and to be honest, sometimes enhancement as well. In fact, in many cases, enhancement with steroids. Now, make sure that you take that for what it is and understand that a lot of the time you're going to be comparing yourself at your worst to people at their best, and oftentimes better than their best, because they don't even look like that in real life. Number 23, everything takes longer than you think. All right, so whatever timeline you've got in your head, I would say double it, because it will save you a lot of frustration down the road. If you're trying to lose weight, maybe you have a goal in mind and you think it will take X amount of time, just double it and allow that instead. It doesn't mean it will take that. It means it's going to avoid frustration if it does end up taking that, because everything in fitness takes longer than you think it will. Number 24, if you're under the weather, be wary of pushing too hard in the gym. All right, so training through illness can make things worse, and it can just leave you with longer recovery than had you just backed off for a few days and actually let things settle. So don't try and be too aggressive with it. If you're feeling a bit down, if you're feeling a bit unwell, maybe take a day off. Take a couple of days off, come back to it when you feel better. All right, so finally, number 25, supplements are the icing on the cake, all right? Don't prioritize or focus on supplements. They're just genuinely not required. It doesn't mean they're not helpful, it just means they're not required. A few of the most popular ones that are actually quite good and do have benefits are creatine, whey protein, omega-3s, and vitamin D. It doesn't mean they're the only ones that are beneficial. It just means when it comes to the total story of what you're trying to do and the goals that you're trying to work toward, if you've not got everything else in place first, there are better places to be spending your time and your focus addressing bigger limiting factors for you than worrying about what supplement that you might need. All right, so there you have it. That's 25 things that you need to know that will form a good base of knowledge for you to build the rest of your fitness journey off of. So if you enjoyed that video, please leave a like or consider subscribing. Again, if you have thoughts on that, leave them in the comments. If you have anything to add, leave it in the comments. I reply to all of them and I look forward to hearing from you. So again, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.